Atypical Church.
Well, hello there once again. It's your favorite chaplain. Welcome back to Atypical Church. Things are starting to change a bit for me because of everything getting back to normal, which is exciting, but I'm probably not going to have nearly as much time to make these videos, so I'm not sure what's going to happen going forward, but I'm going to do my best to at least get something up there. It just might not be edited as well as I normally do, but I'll do my best and I'll go ahead and throw this one up for this week. So, not long ago, I was listening to a podcast, and there was an astronaut who was talking about some of the dangers inherent in working on the International Space Station. So, as he spoke about all the dangers and all the things that could possibly happen, one thing in particular really stood out to me. He said that the most important thing that they're concerned about is the quality of the atmosphere. He said there's an alarm that'll actually go off in the International Space Station that says there's a toxic atmosphere if that were to happen. And if that happens, that immediately becomes the number one priority to find the source of it and to fix it if at all possible. As you can imagine, if you are orbiting the Earth and you're kind of far away from home, if you can't breathe, you're in some real serious problems. So that got me thinking about our lives as Christians. One of the main things that I feel we should concern ourselves with is the atmosphere in which we live. Now, of course, I'm not talking about the air quality, but instead I'm talking about the things that we allow to impact the way we live our lives, the things we watch, the things we listen to, and most importantly, the people that we surround ourselves with. So I'm going to explore that in a new series that I'm going to simply call
Toxic Atmosphere.
Now, when I was working through this message and kind of planning out the scriptures and some of the stories I wanted to use, one story came to mind that I absolutely have to tell. When I first started working at the Mustard Seed, I was working on the front doors where we receive donations and we hand out donations and just help our guests who are in emergency crisis situations. So one time we had this donation, a huge box of chocolate bars, or candy bars if you're in the States. And it was pretty exciting because it's fun to give out chocolate to people. So we just started divvying the stuff out. We didn't really pay much attention to everything that was in the box. This went on all day. We didn't have a whole lot of people coming that day, and we had a huge box. So we just kept giving it out. And around the end of the day, people started coming back, some of our regulars that we knew pretty well. And they were saying that the chocolate we were giving them didn't taste very good. So of course we're wondering if maybe it's expired or, maybe there's something else going on. And one guy said that it kind of tasted like soap. So that seemed a little weird. So we went ahead and emptied out the box to look through everything. And I know you're thinking, why wouldn't you do that first? But I don't know. We were just excited to give out chocolate bars. So at the bottom of the box was an entire row of bars of soap. Wow. It ruined the chocolate. And I even tried one of the pieces of gum from a packet, and it tasted just like soap. It was disgusting. And so that story is just in the back of my mind as I prepare this message. As we're around people who don't have the same values or morals as us, often it can lead us astray and it can change the way we are. Now, there's a famous quote from Booker T. Washington. He was an advisor to many of the U.S. presidents from 1890 to 1915, and he says, "Associate yourself with people of good quality, for it is better to be alone than in bad company." Wow, is that ever true? And it's definitely something we need to continue to think about. Now, the Bible is filled with stories of people who made bad choices because of the people they were around. Some of the more famous ones, obviously Samson and Delilah. We know in Judges 16 that he fell in love with her, although it's not recorded that she fell in love with him at all. She was trying to deceive him and figure out why he had such great strength and what that came from. Now, there's a few times where she asks him this question and he tells her a fake answer, and then she tries to use that against him. So you think that he would figure this out, but apparently this guy was really stricken with her. So he eventually tells her the truth about his hair. The Philistines come and cut it off, and he ends up losing his life because of it. I also can't help but point out the story of Aaron, as he helped Moses lead all the Israelites out of Egypt, out of captivity. And then Moses is gone getting the Ten Commandments, and Aaron is convinced by the people to make a golden calf as a false idol so that they can worship it. And he does it. I just don't understand how that's even possible. But the toxic environment, the toxic atmosphere of the people who were around him wore him down. And unfortunately, because of this, 3,000 people died as a result of it. So that's a pretty toxic atmosphere. There's a few scriptures in the Bible that really bring this to light. In 1 Corinthians 15:33, it records, "Do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good character." Psalm 1:1 says, "Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the wicked, nor stands in the way of the sinner, nor sits in the seat of scoffers." And Proverbs 13:20 tells us, "Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm." Now, that last one is actually written by King Solomon, so I want to tell a bit of his story. In 1 Kings chapter 3, we read a famous story where God comes to Solomon and says, basically, "I'll give you anything you want." And Solomon simply asks for wisdom so that he can rule the people well. And God is obviously very impressed with this, so he promises to do that. And Solomon becomes the wisest man in history and also the wealthiest man who had ever lived. So he builds the first temple for God, and when they go to dedicate it, God tells him, "But if you or your descendants turn away from me and do not observe the commands and decrees I have given you and go off to serve other gods and worship them, then I will cut off Israel from the land I have given them and will reject this temple I have consecrated for my name." Unfortunately, Solomon did not listen to God or even take his own advice that we already read in Proverbs 13. He truly became a companion of fools. He allowed himself to get knee deep in a toxic atmosphere. So, to finish the story, I need to read some stuff from 1 Kings 11, and I'll kind of paraphrase a bit of it because it's fairly lengthy. King Solomon, however, loved many foreign women besides Pharaoh's daughter: Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Sidonians, and Hittites. They were from nations about which the Lord had told the Israelites, "You must not intermarry with them, because they will surely turn your hearts after their gods." Nevertheless, Solomon held fast to them in love. As Solomon grew old, his wives turned his heart after other gods, and his heart was not fully devoted to the Lord his God, as the heart of David his father had been. The Lord became angry with Solomon because his heart had turned away from the Lord, the God of Israel, who had appeared to him twice. Although he had forbidden Solomon to follow other gods, Solomon did not keep the Lord's command. So the Lord said to Solomon, "Since this is your attitude, and you have not kept my covenant and my decrees, which I commanded you, I will most certainly tear the kingdom away from you and give it to one of your subordinates." Now, Solomon had every opportunity to change the course of his life, and he started out with such high hopes. He really should have been the greatest human being who had ever lived. But unfortunately, he just did not have the character required to live out that life. His temple ended up being destroyed 400 years ago by King Nebuchadnezzar and the Babylonians. So, how can we make sure that we're not led astray? How can we be more aware of the environment that we're in and the atmosphere and be recognizing that it might be toxic? Well, anything in your atmosphere that is not lining up with God's word or not lining up with the person that you want to be is kind of the first place to start. We need to be confident in who we are and in the person we want to be, and really know that for certain so that nobody can shake us from that. We need to watch for the warning signs of our atmosphere starting to deteriorate or becoming toxic because of the environment that we're in. Maybe we're starting to change our views and our opinions and maybe second guess some things. And we also need to remember that it is never too late to walk away. It's never too late to change your environment, to change the friends that you're around, or the people that you're listening to, or the shows you're watching, or the music you're listening to, whatever it might be that's kind of distracting you. It's never too late to walk away. And it might be a hard conversation. You might have to actually go to people and tell them, hey, I'm sorry, you guys are not going the direction I want to go with my life. A friend of mine told me quite a few years ago that he always liked to hang out with people who had higher standards than he did, or who were smarter than he was, or had just experienced things that he had never experienced, because undoubtedly those things will rub off on you. And he always said that it kind of forces him to raise his game to another level. Kind of like if you're not that great at basketball, but you want to get better, you play with people who are better, and you kind of have to get better or give up, I guess. But in the same way, we can certainly be aware of the environment that we're in, the atmosphere, and we can start looking for ways to change that and improve that, and making sure that God is welcome in the atmosphere that we've created. So I hope this has encouraged you. God bless you. Hope to talk to you soon. Thank you guys so much for watching these videos. I really appreciate it. I pray that God uses them to bless you. Remember that most of these ideas are based on my book, Becoming Ever Mindful, which you can find online or here in Calgary at these locations. Remember to hit that like and subscribe button. God bless you.